Good morning. As Brown versus Board of Education has shown us, it takes many different people, organizations, and talents to move this country forward. The same can be said of our event today. The support of our sponsors and their commitment to equity in education made today's historic reflections and conversations possible. On behalf of the NAACP, I would like to thank our general sponsors: American Association for Colleges of Teacher Education, the School Superintendents Association, American Federation of Teachers, AIR Equity Institute, the Learning Policy Institute, Minnesota State System, National Coalition on School Diversity, National Education Association, the Spencer Foundation, Temple University, Tia McNair, Verizon Communications, and Walmart. Next, we'll hear from a leader, a veteran activist, and another beneficiary of Brown versus the Board of Education. Since 2017, President Derrick Johnson has fearlessly led the NAACP with his wealth of knowledge, love of political history, and deep commitment to improving the Black community. He ushered the organization into a new era, connecting the history of the association's work to our current fights for civil rights. A Mississippian by way of Detroit, Michigan, President Johnson has always embedded himself in the community. A proud graduate of Tougaloo College who holds a Juris Doctor degree from South Texas College of Law, his academic and professional journey reflects his dedication to education and social justice. It is under his leadership that the NAACP was the first to file suit against the insurrectionists who attempted to overthrow our government on January 6th. It is under his leadership that we will ensure that Black history is respected as American history, and the Black community is centered in all conversations about our future. Please join me in welcoming our President and CEO, Mr. Derrick Johnson.
Thought I had a speech up here. I'm at the wrong podium. So much for leadership if you can't follow directions. Good afternoon. And thank you all who have joined us here today for this historic 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege to acknowledge those who are with us today, to the families of Brown litigants, whose ancestors are shining examples of patriotism and ultimate sacrifice. We at the NAACP are eternally grateful for your families for persevering through the threats of physical violence, economic erosion, and mental weight of leading this effort to integrate our nation's schools. To the members of Little Rock 9 who are in the room as well, let's give them a hand. It is an honor to share space with you. The educational advancements we have seen over the past 7 decades would not have been possible without your bravery and determination. The NAACP has a long history of causes to the courthouse. In 1954, we litigated Brown versus Board of Education at the Supreme Court to challenge the ideal that separate could not be equal. Today, we litigate in states like Arkansas to ensure that our stories, our history, the same history we are celebrating today is not eradicated from books and banished from classrooms. But the Black community is well aware that progress is not possible without expending every resource at our disposal. So yes, we litigate, but we also advocate. We agitate. We show up in the halls of power, echoing the rally cries of our community. For far too long, those cries have fallen on deaf ears. We haven't felt seen. We haven't felt heard. Nearly 4 years ago, a new administration took their seat in the White House, an administration that includes the first, but not the last, Black female Vice President of the United States. An administration that has centered the Black community and Black culture from day one. An administration that has opened its doors to Black America, inviting us into conversations about the state of Black education, acknowledging our long history of being left out of progress and left behind opportunity. An administration that has committed themselves to advocating racial equality. We told them that Black education is severely underfunded, that the promise of the landmark decisions like Brown has yet to be fulfilled, that we are facing a dire Black teacher shortage. Our graduates are suffering from student debt crisis, and our HBCUs are not getting the funding they need and deserve. And for the first time in a very long time, we have been seen, we have been heard. In the past 4 years, this administration has canceled more than $150 billion in student debt for more than 4 million Americans. Some are even starting to call President Biden the canceled student debt president. And not only has that debt been canceled, but programs like the Public Loan Service Forgiveness Program have been improved in ways that will maximize their impact for years to come. Please understand that the #1 employer of African American is government. And if that is the #1 employer and people are serving community and taking pay cuts, we need programs like the Public Loan Service Program in place to ensure we keep quality teachers in classrooms. And just this morning, I woke up to the news that the administration has provided our HBCUs with $16 billion in funding over the past 3 years. It doesn't stop there, because we know that our community, the obstacles to education didn't simply exist in the classroom. They permeate throughout our everyday lives. If we are too busy working 3 jobs to put food on the table and clothes on our children's back, how can we expect to sit down and do homework with them every night? We need real solutions to real problems we face on a day-to-day basis. And then we saw the passage of the American Rescue Plan and the creation of nearly 3 million jobs for Black workers, and a child tax credit expansion that has cut Black child poverty in half and provided some breathing rooms to 9 million Black families. We know there is much more to be done. But boy, does it feel nice to be seen and to be heard. It is nice when our elected officials at the highest levels of government show up for our culture and our community. And with this being said, it is my distinct honor to welcome the 46th President of the United States of America, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
My name's Joe Biden, and I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. But I said that a little earlier to the president. He said, "Are your dues paid up? I got to check." Oh, my Lord. So many people here today. You changed the world. 70 years ago, you changed, I say the world, that's not hyperbole, I'm not exaggerating. Not only changed the United States, you changed our role in the world in a fundamental way. I know there's a lot more to do. President Johnson, that introduction, thank you for your leadership. But most importantly, for the NAACP. It's an honor to be with all of you here at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Remember, we were trying to get this built for years? It's pretty neat, isn't it? Huh? And by the way, I want to thank the staff who runs this place. They do an incredible job. Together, the NAACP and this museum are monuments to the power of black history. And black history is American history. It's American. You know, it's a really important thing to continue to, we have a whole group of people out there trying to rewrite history, trying to erase history. It's a tribute to heroes, known and unknown, who pursued our nation's North Star. We're unique among all nations of the world, and I mean that. Every other nation is based on ethnicity, based on religion and other things, but we're the only one based on an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and should be treated equally their whole lives, throughout their lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, to state the obvious, but we've never walked away from either because of so many of you in this room and so many more. 70 years ago, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus the Board of Education that racial segregation in public schools is unconstitutional, a prayer was answered in a long struggle for freedom. Yesterday, I welcomed the family of plaintiffs in that landmark case to the White House, to the Oval Office, their office. Once upon a time, they were excluded from certain classrooms. But 70 years later, they're inside the most important rooms of all, the Oval Office, where they belong. They're a living reminder that once upon a time wasn't that long ago. And all the progress we've made is still have more to do. And there's still groups who are trying to erase it. You know, one of the cases that led to the landmark decision was in my home state of Delaware. A black mother from Hockessin, Delaware, joined by parents and 8 other students in Claymont, a town I moved to when work ran out in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we moved back in 3rd grade, moved here to Delaware in 3rd grade. All in Claymont, they just wanted a simple proposition. They wanted their kids to be able to attend school and be treated with dignity and respect. They asked a man who I looked up to and really admired and helped me out as a young public defender, Lewis L. Redding. He was the first man, the first black man ever admitted to the practice of law in the state of Delaware, to say. All right. And think about that. Here, the first man, this guy was brilliant, and he didn't get admitted till after the 50s in Delaware. Well, he enlisted a young Jewish lawyer from the NAACP named Jack Greenberg to help him devise a legal strategy to get rid of racial segregation in Delaware schools. In 1952 in Delaware, for the first time in our country's history, in Beulah versus Gebhardt and Belton versus Gebhardt. And by the way, any Delawareans here today? Great. All right. First time ever, segregated white public schools were ordered to admit black children. Lewis L. Redding's argument in those early Delaware cases laid the legal framework for Brown versus the board. His story, a timeless truth about America. When we make real the promise of America for all Americans, the nation changes for the better. Everything from the economy to everything grows. Everything grows. After Brown versus board decision, the public schools gradually, and often much too slowly, were integrated. Graduation rates for black and Latino students increased significantly, though. The Brown decision proves a simple idea. We learn better when we learn together. That's why my administration is increasing funding for schools to bring together students from different backgrounds. My Department of Education is investing $300 million, including another $20 million announced today to support diversity in our schools. We're also funding efforts to increase diversity in teaching profession itself. Because as the president said, black students, particularly young black men, react to black teachers. Black students who have black teachers are significantly more likely to graduate from high school and enroll in college. It makes a difference, and it matters. My Department of Education provided an additional almost $500 million, $450 million, to ensure teachers in our school reflect the diversity in our country. We're just getting started. This money is going to go toward training the next generation of teachers at HBCUs, tribal colleges, and minority-serving institutions. By the way, not because I'm married to one, but we need to give teachers a raise. I mean it. Another lesson from Brown is that every child deserves a quality education. How can we, think in just simple terms, how can we have the strongest economy in the world without the best education in the world? I mean, it's not possible. That taps into the full talents of our entire nation. And the answer starts with early childhood education. Because of the nation's legacy of discrimination, the black children start school with an average of 7 months behind their white peers in reading. But 1 year of universal high-quality pre-K could eliminate 98% of that gap, just 1 year. And children go to preschool who are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2-year or 4-year degree no matter what their background is. That's why my administration is working to support black children. And as soon as I came to office, I signed the American Rescue Plan. And I'm going to be political, but I just say this because we're having problems. Not one Republican voted for it, not one. But the American Rescue Plan expanded child care tax credits to deliver monthly checks to working families to cut black child poverty in half. My Republican friends let it expire, but I'm going to keep fighting to reestablish it. We're going to get it reestablished. And I'm going to keep fighting to make sure preschool is universal for every 3- and 4-year-old in America. We can afford to do this. It's not hard. Instead of giving multi-billion-dollar breaks to the super wealthy, let's make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share of taxes. We can afford all this. I'll just slow up for just 1 second here. Ad-lib a little bit here because I'm going to get in trouble for keeping it longer. But you know, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. 1,000. I'm a capitalist. You can make all that money, fine. Just pay your fair share. Well, here's the deal. You know what the federal tax rate is for a billionaire in America? 8.3%. If you just raised it to 25%, we raise $400 billion over the next 10 years. That could pay for all of this, cut the deficit, and do so much more. Just pay your fair share. Look, it's not only good for children, it's good for the country when we have early education, and it grows the economy. We're also working to ensure every child, no matter what their zip code, has access to quality education experience in K through 12. The American Rescue Plan delivered $130 billion to American schools, the most ever in funding public education in our nation's history. And we added another $202 billion annually to Title I funding, support school students that are most in need. These dollars help for things like tutoring, paying teachers are for what they deserve, providing more advanced casework and courseworks as well. While college degrees are still the ticket to the middle class, the ticket's becoming too expensive. Too many young people, black students, are dealing with unsustainable debts in exchange for a college degree. That's why my administration is taking the most significant action, notwithstanding the Supreme Court tried to stop me, to provide student debt relief, most supreme ever. I've been able to relieve $160 billion in student debt for over 4.5 million Americans, including a significant number of black borrowers. That means they can now start a family, buy a home, save for their children's school, give back to their communities. It also increased the maximum Pell Grant by $900, the largest increase in a decade. And it matters because over 60% of black students rely on Pell Grants to go to college. And something I'm really proud of, We're making historic investments in historic black colleges and universities. Now, I'm from Delaware, so I go along with Delaware State being the best HBCU. Kamala keeps saying it's Howard. And I'm going Sunday to make a speech at that other place, that men's college, Morehouse. I got more Morehouse men in my administration than Morehouse. But regardless of loyalties, it's clear HBCUs are vital to our nation's progress. I mean it. That's not hyperbole. HBCUs are responsible for 40% of black engineers in America, 50% of black teachers, 70% of all black doctors and dentists, 80% of all black judges. And by the way, I put more on the bench than anybody ever has. And 100% of black vice presidents. You got it. HBCUs also don't have endowments like other colleges and universities that are able to fund research labs and so much more. Well, Kamala and I made a commitment to lift HBCUs up, and we're keeping that commitment. Today, I'm proud to announce, as was mentioned earlier by the President, that we've invested over $16 billion in HBCUs. By far the most ever of any administration, and a combination of almost all administrations. This investment has helped HBCUs do everything from build student housing, to study climate science, to create health research labs, prepare black students for labs and industries of the future, because they don't have the endowments to do it themselves now. But let's be clear. I know real power when I see it. Later today, in the Oval Office, I'll be meeting with the presidents of the Divine Nine. You all think I'm kidding, don't you? Well, I'm proud that we are the first to... You got it. I can tell there's no... Anyway. We're the first administration in history to have a working group from the Divine Nine in the White House. And I asked them to do that from the very beginning. But we know 70 years after Brown versus Board, there are some forces trying to deny freedom of opportunity for all Americans. A few minutes ago, I talked with some of the Little Rock Nine, who were determined to integrate a public school in Little Rock, Arkansas 67 years ago. I'd like to recognize them for their courage and their, would they, if they can, if you're able, please stand and rise so we can all see you. Thank God Eisenhower was president. Thank God we had someone who stood up. The Little Rock Nine were met with vitriol and violence. Today, the resistance comes in other insidious forms. An extreme movement led by my predecessor and his MAGA Republican allies, backed by an extreme Supreme Court, gutted affirmative action in college admissions. My predecessor and his extreme MAGA friends are now going after diversity, equity, and inclusion all across America. They want a country for some, not for all. And let's not kid ourselves, folks. This is the God's truth, what I'm saying. My predecessor and his extreme MAGA friends are responsible for taking away other fundamental freedoms, from the freedom to vote to the freedom to choose. But I've always believed that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed. And I mean that, everyone to succeed. That's what Brown is all about. That's what we're all about. That's what America's about. Let me close with this. On Sunday, I'm attending the commencement of Morehouse College, one of our nation's most important institutions. Morehouse was founded after our nation's Civil War to help prepare black Americans who were formerly enslaved to enter the ministry, earn an education, and usher them from slavery to freedom. The founders of Morehouse understood something fundamental. Education is linked to freedom. Because to be free means to have something that no one can ever take away from you. And that's the power of an education. That's why the Brown decision to commemorate today is so important. The work of building democracy is a possibility, of a democracy worthy of our dreams, starts with opening the doors of opportunity for everyone without exception. And we can do it. We just have to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity when we decide to work together. May God bless you all, and thank you all for all the bravery you've demonstrated over the years, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Proud to be with you. Thank you.